Kia ora tātou, ko Takatimu, ko Yuyang, tako maunga, ko Tasman, ko Port Phillip Bay, tako mauna, ko Takatimu, tako waka, ko Sally, tako ingoa, ko Murahuku, Aotearoa, tako whare, no ko Lewis, aho. Ko Give Where You Live, tako mahi. Welcome, everybody. I've just explained and introduced myself in the language from where I come from in New Zealand, Te Reo Māori. And what I've done is explain the places to me that are important in New Zealand and that I grew up beside and standing on, and also some of the places here where I live and are of importance to me. I did mention that I work here at Give Where You Live, which is obviously why you're seeing me on screen today. I work within the food and homelessness space, and also work with our community choice voucher program. So, and I'll be your contact, your main contact for the community grant review panel process, as well as some of our other team here as well. I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land in which I now live, work and play, the Wadawurrung people of the Kulin Nation. In my pepeha, I referred to my country where I grew up, which was Southland, New Zealand, and acknowledged the sustenance of that land that it provided me. I'm so thankful to the Wadawurrung people for their custodianship of the lands, waters and skies here, such a beautiful part of the world, and one on which, I'm lucky to live on, to feed my family from, and to recreate on, swim, walk and work on. I also recognise that some of you may be logging in from other locations, and therefore acknowledge the First Nations people of the lands on which you live, work and play, and those places that have been cared for so many years, which you can also rest and recreate and grow on. And I also would like to extend a welcome to all First Nations people that may be watching this today. I pay my respects to you, your elders and your ancestors past, and just honour the ongoing work and leadership shown by First Nations people every day in this nation. And I acknowledge that sovereignty was never ceded, and I support you wholeheartedly in continuing working for recognition of this. I'd also like to acknowledge that all First Nations people for tens of thousands of years took part in similar processes for what we're trying to bring about with our community grant review panel, and involving, a collective decision-making process through engaging with people, engaging with community and connecting. Yarns are a key part of many Indigenous communities, both here and around the world, as collective decisions were made about tribe and country. So there's so much more that we could learn from our First Nations people in this space. So in the spirit of that, today's session is an orientation session about being involved with our community grant review panel, and many of you have been involved before, so I appreciate some of this may be going over older stuff, but I'd also like to acknowledge Meg Price, who's here today as well, and she will speak around the changes that have happened in the organisation and around our theory of change and where we're heading to in this grants program. So here, as I move the slide through, is an outline of our session. As I mentioned, Meg will talk a lot about the foundation and the updated theory of change, and then we'll move on to an overview of this grant round and the changes, highlight the changes from other grant rounds that you've been involved with, and the grant review process that will roll out, that you'll be a part of. And also we'll just briefly talk about the workshop, the face-to-face workshop, which I'm thrilled that all of you are able to attend. So Meg, I'm going to hand it over to you now, and just, go for it. Thanks, Meg.
Thanks, Sally, and thank you for your really warm acknowledgement. It's always so wonderful to have you share some of your language and your culture with us. Thank you. Many of you have been involved in discussions about how we're evolving at the Foundation as part of our grant review last year. So over the next few slides, I'll highlight where we're focusing our efforts in 2024 and beyond, and some of this might already be familiar to you. We'll continue to ask ourselves here at the Foundation how we can enable greater fairness, equity, inclusion, care, compassion, and connection in our G21 community. This will require funding and changes to the structures and systems holding inequity in place in our region, and changes to our collective community mindsets, beliefs, and attitudes. And as a foundation, we aim to use all of our energy and resources in partnerships with yourselves and community to help all people and places thrive. We believe that together with community and partners, we need to change our society to be more connected, and we need to change our economy to be more equitable, regenerative, and inclusive. You're all part of this journey with us. We believe that the challenges that we're facing now as a community require all of us, a whole of community response, and a range of actions, initiatives, and support, including, but not limited to, our traditional grant making. So through our social and economic change initiatives, our grant-funded activities with community partners, our research, our evaluation and reflection practices, our awareness raising and our advocacy initiatives, we're aiming to catalyse systems change, social change, build community assets and incubate social innovation in an effort to build greater fairness, equity, inclusion, care, compassion and connection in our community. Next slide, Sal. The Give Where You Live Foundation has been active in the G21 region since 1954. This is our 70th year of supporting our local community. And along the way, we've been called a few different things. The Geelong District Community Chest, United Way. And then in 2011, we became the Give Where You Live Foundation. We want to be recognised as one of the most progressive foundations in Australia. But we realise we can't do this alone. We recognise we need to work collaboratively with our community to tackle the big challenges that we're facing and to ensure that we build a fairer, more equitable G21 region where all people and all places thrive. The Foundation has developed a theory of change to guide us in achieving our purpose. A theory of change describes the goal and the changes that we believe are necessary to make that change happen. So to achieve our ambitions, we believe we need to identify and address underlying systemic and structural barriers that inhibit opportunity and contribute to social and economic inequity in our region. We believe we need to take a whole of community approach to strengthening our empathy and understanding, our community connections and our resilience, ultimately building a movement for change. And we believe we need to support self-determination of Australia's First Nations people, supporting our Indigenous communities to meet their social, cultural and economic needs. These principles underpin and inform all areas of our work, including our grants program, and they cut across our priority focus areas of food security, homelessness assistance, inclusive employment, and regenerative, inclusive and sustainable economic development. The focus of this particular grant round is food security and homelessness assistance. Additional grant rounds in the future will focus on the Foundation's other focus areas. And annual grant round focus areas will be determined each year based on needs and opportunities. So, what does food security and homelessness assistance in a grant round look like? The Foundation will prioritise grant funding for community and or initiatives that are assisting our G21 community through food security and homelessness assistance focused, emergency relief, social safety net services and supports, or systems change ideas, which are social and economic change ideas which seek to change underlying systems, structures, policies, and tackle root causes contributing to inequity to drive increased fairness and equity. For food security, the long-term outcome that we're seeking as a foundation through our work, including our own initiatives and our grant making, is to ensure that all people at all times have access to sufficient and healthy food in our region. To achieve this outcome, the Foundation prioritises working with and funding organisations and initiatives which contribute towards increased choice diversity and access to food relief, addressing immediate food security emergency relief needs, transforming the underlying systems and structures contributing to inequitable food systems and food, and strengthening food relief service coordination and collaboration. In the homelessness space, for the focus of this grant round for homelessness assistance, the long-term outcome that we're seeking through our grant funding and all of our work, including our own initiatives, is to ensure that when homelessness occurs, it's rare, brief, and non-reoccurring. To achieve this outcome, the Foundation is prioritising working with and funding organisations and initiatives which contribute towards addressing immediate homelessness emergency relief needs, transforming the underlying systems and structures contributing to homelessness, and strengthening homelessness service coordination and support. There are no restrictions on using the funding for overheads or administration costs for this grant round. Funding is unrestricted and it can be fully utilised to support existing operations of the organisations. This is important to note in our grant funding for 2024. It is a change from previous years. So applications can be submitted for grants for up to $20,000 for this grant round, and there's a total of $140,000 available for distribution, with a maximum of $20,000 per organisation. As I mentioned, funding's unrestricted, and it can be used to support an organisation's core funding, which is their general operating costs, to be able to implement current or new projects, initiatives or services relevant to the focus areas of food security and homelessness assistance. This is a closed by invitation grant round. The eligibility requirements, including what we won't fund, were listed in the grant guidelines for grant applicants. And for this grant round, we elected to have a closed competitive grant round. Key local organisations aligned to the priority areas of food relief, food security and homelessness assistance were invited to apply. This approach isn't typical for us as a foundation. We usually have open competitive rounds, but we decided to go with this approach for this round to test key elements of our new priority areas and some new processes. Thanks.
Thanks, Meg. That was awesome. So now I'm just going to go through the actual process on the ground and what's happening. So the assessment journey itself, meaning, you know, I guess the path of the application. So the grant round closed on the 1st of April. And before you receive applications to review, I need to highlight that eligibility checks are carried out by us. Each single application is currently undergoing those checks where we look at financial records, annual reports, the charity register, all that sort of stuff, making sure that's all up to date and fine. Then you receive your applications to review. Once you have reviewed your applications and submitted back your scores on each of the applications that you receive, and attended the face-to-face discussion panel, all your feedback and scores are collated in-house here with us. And then our staff selection panel meet as well. And before we meet as staff, we've also undergone review of those applications. So we meet together, we read and consider all of your scores as a panelist and our own individual commentary on these grant applications. But you must bear in mind that the recommendations of you as a panelist and a panelist as a whole is not the sole determinant of our grant giving. This grant round, you are here to assess the written applications that you receive, the ones that are before you, which will likely be 3 to 4 applications, not anything further. We then also consider as at Give Where You Live, we consider the wider context in relation to the application. So sometimes the community need, we're aware of that on a broader scale. We also have knowledge about other local funders' funding intentions as well. So we work collaboratively with a lot of other funders in the region. And we also can have knowledge of the organisation's grant writing capability, which may not always be adequately reflected, you know, on the social impact that they're actually contributing towards. So the work that they're actually doing isn't always reflected in the written word in their application due to, you know, a lot of these applications are, you know, a lot of these organisations are volunteer run, so they are, but they don't have professional grant writers. So it's just important to remember and understand that your assessment and view on the application itself that you receive, our foundation incorporates your thoughts along with a lot of other contexts which can change the final funding outcomes from what necessarily you feed back to us. So why are you here? All panelists that are involved this year have been past reviewers. So you have experience in this process and you've indicated again your expression of interest to come back. So we're thrilled about that. You might want to learn more about the region, keep up to date with what's happening and feel passionate about the causes that we are granting out into. Also, we recognise you're a key supporter of our foundation as well, and we're really thankful for that. You might be here to meet new people, create new networks, and as I mentioned, I know you'll want to make a difference as well, which is fantastic for us. Just remember, this isn't a test. As you've gone through it before, I'm sure you're hopefully feeling more familiar, but there's no right or wrong way to assess these applications. Whatever you think in your opinion is just as valid as anyone else. And equally on that, no question is a silly question. So if you're feeling unsure about any aspect of this process, please always give me a call or send an email and either myself or the rest of the team here can assist. So you may see 3 or 4 of the total 11 applications that we have in this grant round. So that's another component to remember that, you're not aware of all of the applications that are coming through. So we consider that wider context. So as I said, the applications all had to be in by the 1st of April. And here's a quick graph to show you the applications that we've received by their focus area. So by and large, food security is predominant in the applications we received, holding 69% of the funding ask and then 25% in the homelessness space. And some are both, have been indicated as both at 10,000 or 6% of the funding. And acknowledge, you'll see through some of the applications, food and homelessness do cross over. So while there's a small section there that have been indicated as both, some further down obviously do cross over. So what will you be reviewing? So as I mentioned earlier, this year we will be undertaking the financial reviews internally. So we'll be looking at annual reports, audited financial statements and compiling financial ratios and risk factor profiles of each of the organisations. So we are doing that this year. So, but if there's promotional material or letters of support or quotes or estimates that may have come in with the applications, we will be forwarding those through with the applications to you to review. So if at any point you believe you're missing an attachment, please let us know and we're happy to send that out. So as you will be familiar with other years in applications, the applicant has to identify one primary measure from a drop-down list that we give them. So an example here on the slide is the primary measure that this applicant has chosen is the number of people supported to access food relief and reduce food insecurity. We also ask each applicant to select secondary measures if they like. So as you can see, some of those are listed down here. So this year, it's not just about the number of people or the number of meals. We've also offered measures around stories, I guess. How have you created greater choice, diversity or access to food relief options? How have you contributed to change in a system, structure or policy? Because you can't always tell those stories with numbers. So those are some changes in the measures that are coming through. Ideally, for you as a panelist is just to ensure that the measures selected, you feel like they are appropriate measures in comparison to what project the applicant is proposing to do or their core business. because these are the measures that they will have to report back on. And then we use that as a foundation in our impact report and the difference we're able to make in the community through these grants. So we have the list of all the measures that are available will be in the instructions that you receive as a panelist. I'm not going to read them all out. I guess the key is for you to just check that those measures are related to the proposal that you feel the applicant is trying to put forward in their grant application. And to give a snapshot of what the measures are by the grants that we've received so far and what has been identified, again, reflected a lot of food related ones. So number of people supported to access food relief and reduce food insecurity, number of meals provided to support food relief and reduce food insecurity. We have number of people supported to access homelessness, number of people provided tailored support to meet crisis needs, which is often a key indicator that, you know, organisations are doing that as well as supporting people with food. You know, there's often other wraparound supports that are able to be offered. Number of new initiatives developed to address food insecurity. So those are the primary measures that have come through. The secondary measures are a lot greater, but that's just a snapshot there for you of what we've received this grant round. Now I'm just going to move in to talk to the assessment criteria for each of the applications that you will need to look at. This is not much different than other years. Very, very similar. Again, these questions are in the review sheets that can guide you in scoring each of these components. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. Meg, we have shown you the theory of change, the new graphic. You'll also be sent a copy of that as well to refer to if you wish to. So it's just ensuring that the application that's come through, does it clearly align to the theory of change and the outcome areas of food security and homelessness assistance. The next section of assessment of a grant application is based around community need. So this really we seek from an applicant that they are clearly defining the needs that they see in the community. So this can be ongoing needs if they're just asking for funding to continue doing what they're doing. It's just that they're still stating there's a need in the community and how what they do meets that need. So it's really like stating facts in their story and then supporting that with evidence and maybe other statistics, other research. It can also be anecdotal, you know, an increase in demand to their own services that they've seen, or case studies or stories. It's also key that the application relates to the G21 region where we are located and where the community that we serve. And it's ensuring that the outcomes and activities proposed that they're going to do clearly connect back to the gap that they're identifying or the need that they're identified. So, yeah, and who will benefit from the application and how are they affected by inequality and vulnerability. So this is really setting the scene, this section, community need. The next section is organisational capacity. So this section demonstrates the organisation's ability to deliver the proposed project. So is it clear who will deliver the project and what qualifications or training that they have? And if they don't have anyone at the moment, have there been discussions around who is going to do that? Have key partners been identified? So other organisations in the region that they are stating they wish to work with. And so what is the status of that relationship between them, and is that clear in the application? Because we can all dream up ideas of who we'd like to work with and what we'd like to do, but within this, we really like to see that relationship is quite solid, and that can be through a letter of support for application as well. So it should also, the letter of support should also be clear around the connection that the person writing it has to the application. So if they're a recipient of the services of the organisation, or like I said, they may be a collaborative organisation that they're working with. Another key thing is around risks and challenges to the delivery of the project. So have they been identified and thought through around what mitigation factors may need to happen if some of those challenges arise? This section is around evaluation and impact. So we want that application to demonstrate the change that the organisation or the project that they're proposing, what is the change that it will make and how will that be measured? So how are they going to plan to collect the data or the stories and demonstrate that change? And again, that's looking back at those primary and secondary outcome measures that they selected and ensuring that they're explaining how they're going to capture that data and measure the difference that's going to be made by the funding. The last section is around budget and financial management. So again, just to reiterate, in this part, it will just be looking at the budget that's put through for the grant application. So are they showing that it's clear how the funds will be used and how the budget has been calculated? And often it's good to look at the budget and then flick back into the initial proposal. So making sure that each component of action is actually, you can clearly see in the budget how that relates to that story. So is it clear and does it link back to what the money they've said will be spent on? So really not many changes from other years that you've been involved. So organisations need to fund overheads to do their important work, and funding for core costs was a key recommendation coming out of the grant review that we undertook this year. So we are totally fine this grant round for funding everyday business as usual costs for many organisations that are doing important social impact work in our region. So there's a variety of applications, whether it's a project or a proposal or it is ongoing costs. So we took that on board and have embedded it in this grant round. Other things just to take note of is that within budget, you may see the budget lines, you may see consultant fees, and sometimes they are high because, you know, they're using highly specialised staff to deliver programs. And you may even see an application where it's to cover the salary of a single part-time staff member, or a percentage of all the funding is going towards overheads or indirect program costs. But ultimately, as you know, been involved before, it's the story that the applicant tells in their application. So are they explaining the need, and then they're explaining the solution or the activity that takes place, and then the outcome or the difference that they're expecting. So yeah, that's the key, the problem, the solution, and the difference. Now what? So what happens next? Wonderful if you can watch this orientation to understand where we're at this grant round. I'm working through allocating your names into a panel group, and it's looking like there'll be 3 to 4 other people reading the same application as you. You will receive 2 to 3 applications to review. We only have 11 this year. We don't have in excess of 50. You review your applications privately, and then they'll be sent out to you on the 18th of April. You'll be sent a link to access those applications and the documents along with instructions, which I'll show you in a minute. And then on Tuesday, the 30th of April, we have our face-to-face workshop at Rosewell Community Centre, where you'll have a chance to hear further from the foundation staff and also to take part in a discussion with other people who've read the same applications as you. And we really look forward to that, as well as morning tea and a little bit of lunch. And then by Tuesday, the 7th of April, we ask you that you have submitted your review sheet per application. So you may, we really prefer that to be done online. It does help us with collation of scores and things, but paper copies can be scanned or dropped off here at our office at Give Where You Live. So the purpose of the face-to-face workshop is about bringing panelists and, Give Where You Live staff together. We're hoping to capture diverse views and also feedback on not only these applications, but also on the panel review process itself, and get some feedback from you who have done this process before. We acknowledge that, you are wanting to help create an impact on the community. So we'd like to build connection within the group of people that are doing that, and encourage, conversations, face-to-face conversations among like-minded supporters of the foundation. So we will send you a link, a Dropbox link that will have instructions to review. So that's a couple of page document, not too strenuous. Also, we have the paper version of the review sheet so that you can, write as you go if you like. We will have a copy of our theory of change and also a copy of the privacy declaration and conflict of interest form that I know you've already signed, which is wonderful. But just for you to refer back to if you need to, because it does state our expectations of you when handling the sensitive information provided to you as a member of these grant review panelists. It's really important to us that we all honour the trust placed in us by organisations who submit their applications to our grants program. So please don't discuss your applications with people outside of the panel process. And it's wonderful, as part of the registration process, you've already notified us of any conflicts that you may have with some of these community organisations, or conflict of interest, I should say. We do this to maintain the integrity of our grant round and provide all applicants with a fair assessment. But when you receive your applications, please don't hesitate to let me know if you realise that you've had a past link to some of these organisations that you may have previously been unaware of or forgotten about. I can happily reallocate you to another panel, so it's no problem. So I'll just reiterate this instruction document. It will have all the details in it that you need. It will also have all my contact details and include some tips and tricks and what's the process going forward. So that's a really important document that will be sent to you. The cheat sheet that will also be included just helps you cover off the criteria. So if you're going to give an answer a score of a 2, the description can be that the application mentions it in their responses but doesn't explain it. So I see these gradings of 1 to 5 like a teacher report. As you go higher to 5, you can understand that answer would be a lot better answer, where the application is very clearly and articulately explained. And there may still be some things that you're unclear on, but they are minimal, so you'd give it a 5. So that can be a good resource too. If you're a little bit stuck and not quite sure, you can just refer back to that. The review sheet itself, we've just tweaked some of the questions for the review sheet. So it's a little bit different than last year, but not majorly. We appreciate the comfort that can come from reviewing on paper. But as I said, we do encourage the submission of these review sheets to be via the online form. But here's the Word form that I'm showing you. The online form is exactly the same, and enables you just to type directly in, and it will automatically calculate up your score. So again, the link will be sent to you for the online form, but you will have a copy of this Word document here, which is very similar to other years. And just a note too, if you do use the Word paper versions, please do try and dispose of these documents as securely as you can. And that may just mean, ripping the paper up. Just so, again, that's about confidentiality and privacy, ripping the paper up before you dispose of it. This is the online form, what it looks like when you go in. As I said, exactly the same questions. We would prefer you to use the online link and submit your answers, your review sheets that way, but appreciate some of you aren't comfortable with that. So just saying that there are 2 options. So once you've allocated your scores, read your applications, you may want to use pencil for your scores initially if you are using paper. We ask in that form that you also describe the project in your own words and let us know what you see as are the strengths and the weaknesses of the application, and then any other questions that you believe we need to ask the applicant. This is really important, these questions, the strengths and weaknesses and other questions, because we offer feedback to all applications that come to us, whether they're successful or unsuccessful, and your feedback is included in that. Not that your name's put to it, but we can offer organisations information on where there were gaps in their application and areas that they can improve. So other years you've been asked to rank your applications or state whether you would give funding or not. Because you're only looking at 3 applications of a total pool of 11, we believe it's an unclear context to do this exercise. So we prefer to keep feedback around strengths and weaknesses and further information needed. So for our face-to-face panel discussion, bring along your review sheets. This may help you have a discussion with other people at your table about what you found in the application. And also it can assist you to write notes, because you may hear someone else speak and think that's a good point, and it may change your ranking or view of their application. You don't have to agree with your panel, the people you're sitting at your table. And really, you don't have to change any of your scoring after the discussion session, but there's obviously a possibility that that may happen. So just bear in mind that you don't all have to agree. So yeah, as I've mentioned, the face-to-face panel discussion, we're really excited about it. This is something new, provides an opportunity for discussions to all take place in the one space. But I see it as just a wonderful gathering of like-minded people and that collective and connection as well. And as I said, we will also have some morning tea before we begin and a little bite of lunch as well. So I'll send out some information in case there's dietary requirements as well to capture on that. Here's a little bit of an outline. We will kick off at 9:30 and we will have a welcome. We will also be seating you in your panels at tables. Give where your foundation staff will speak, set the scene, and then we'll open up for your time, really, panels to have discussions. And then we will look to capture some feedback from panelists, not necessarily about the applications, but about the review and this type of face-to-face gathering and how you found it as well. So, and then we'll have some lunch and time to connect further if you have it. And we'd love if, even if review sheets could be submitted at that time, we'll be there to assist you if you need to with any online support. So hopefully all this information sets the scene of the task ahead of you. Please do reach out if there are any questions. This email address comes to all of us within our team, including Meg, Elise and Bridget, who aren't on the screen today, but we'll all be able to help. And I know I really look forward to seeing you all in person on the 30th of April, and wholeheartedly really thank you so much for your involvement in the process. And this is the second time at least that some of you are coming back. So I know there's a number of you that have been doing this for years. So really appreciate it. And yeah, thank you. And Meg, do you want to say anything as well in conclusion?
Just to echo your comments, Sal, really, really appreciate your involvement, all of the people that are on the call today and those that will be involved throughout the process. Really appreciate your involvement in helping us make some tricky decisions about really worthy causes and organisations in our region. Thank you for being part of our community.
Thanks so much.
Thank you. Bye.